Toronto City Council votes to rename Dundas Street. This is the Great White North Report. Alright, in Toronto yesterday, the social justice warrior nuts won again. The cancel culture is alive and well in Toronto, and Toronto has become the center of wokeness in Canada. Makes me want to throw up. Anyway, the City Council in Toronto votes to rename Dundas Street. So it follows a push to scrap the name due to Henry Dundas' connection to the slave trade. Henry Dundas did not own any slaves himself. He did not sell slaves. He did not buy slaves. He was a British politician who made adjustments to a bill that would have abolished slavery and in essence extended it by a few years. Why did he do that? Simply because he knew that an abolition bill to ban the slave trade throughout the British Empire would have failed miserably because it already failed to pass once before. He also thought that other countries would simply take up the slack and start selling slaves to the British in the British colonies too. So there was a lot of economics involved in that, and also he didn't think that the British Isles, especially in the Caribbean, would appreciate having the slave trade abolished at the time. So what he did was he made the amendment of gradual abolition, and it was able to pass. Now some say that his stance caused the abolition movement in the British Empire to be extended. It could have ended a lot sooner, but I think he thought he was doing what he thought was best at the time, because the bill would not have been passed, and his amendments to that bill made it pass with a majority. So it depends on what view you take. I'm looking at this in the context of 1790s, when Britain was at war with revolutionary France, and this is one of the things they had to deal with. Was he a perfect guy? No. Did he ever visit Canada? No. He was buddies with Simcoe, who was the Lieutenant Governor of Canada at the time. Do I think we should rename our streets at this point? No. What a dumb idea. I can think of better use of our time. The Toronto City Council voted in favor of renaming Dundas Street in a bid to promote inclusion of marginalized communities. What marginalized communities? If anything, Toronto is a marginalized community. We should build a wall around it. Keep all the CCP virus candidates there. So the lengthy debate on Wednesday, they voted 17-7 in favor of a motion put forward by the city staff to change the name of the street, a major artery running east-west through the city. Talk about causing a lot of confusion. The move follows a 2020 petition to scrap the name due to Henry Dundas' association with the transatlantic slave trade. Cropped up amid global discussions and protests against racial injustice, inequality, and anti-black racism. Basically, they just jumped on the bandwagon and are doing it to curry political favor. Michael Thompson, the only black person on council, said before the vote that renaming the street is the right thing to do. Our reputation is online. What reputation? Toronto sucks. Literally and figuratively. It's true, remember not so much what it cost us to change the name, but remember whether or not we actually take the right action. Our reputation is on the line, he said. Now, city manager is expected to report back with recommendations for new names to council's executive committee in the spring of 2022. So it's going to stay Dundas Street until 2022. Hopefully there'll be a new election and they'll scrap that, because think about, it's going to cost the city to change all the street signs, yes. But it's also going to cost the people who live and work on that street to have to change their license to a new address, create headaches like that. And I think Toronto City Council could have tackled much more serious issues instead of this woke issues, because this is probably the easiest thing they can do and make themselves look good. Remove Dundas' name from other public infrastructure. TTC Dundas, Dundas West Subway Station, Yonge-Dundas Square. Other civic assets bearing the Dundas name, including 3 parks, 1 Toronto Library branch, and more than 730 street signs. Jesus Christ. The city will hold a public consultation to find a new name for the street and plans to find room in its budget to support people and businesses affected by the change. So basically this is just a waste of money for being part of the cancel culture. Mayor John Tory said Dundas never visited Toronto and the city should not celebrate him and his legacy. You can never do wrong by doing the right thing, he keeps saying. They're not going to continue to recognize and honor someone who took the actions he took at the time he did that are so inconsistent with the values that we're trying to build up and celebrate today. That's what we're saying. A woke movement jumping on that bandwagon. Must be an election year coming up. So the Community Advisory Committee will lead the renaming process. That committee made up of Black and Indigenous leaders, representatives from diverse communities who live and work along Dundas Street, and from business improvement areas and resident associations. God, talk about how stupid is this? The city of Toronto just hit a new low for stupidity. Confronting anti-black racism, advancing truth and reconciliation and justice, as well as building more inclusive and equitable Toronto. No, Toronto is going downhill, and it has been for years. Why do you think everyone who can is trying to leave? Could cost $6.3 million, according to this, because it's home to more than 97,000 residents and 4,500 businesses. 5.1 to 6.3 million over 2 years. Probably be more like 10 million over 2 years. This is so stupid. It's been named Dundas Street for some time immemorial. Most people don't even know what the name means. No one ever really bothers to look it up except for some stupid woke social justice warrior nut who's probably unemployed and has nothing else better to do with his time. You know, every major city and town in Canada has a Dundas Street. What, this is going to have a domino effect? Just a name now. Who cares? What they should have been worrying about is the homelessness in Toronto. According to this article by Fred Victor, there are about 10,000 people in Toronto who are homeless on any given night. That's a lot of people. Considering that 14,000 people signed the petition to change the name of Dundas Street, and there's 10,000 homeless people, you know, look at statistically, I'd rather be more concerned with the homelessness people. I've seen them around Yonge Street at night, under the bridge, on Spadina. Why don't you do something about that? The driver of homelessness in Toronto is the economy and the housing market. Rental costs have increased dramatically over the past 10 years, and a lack of affordable housing increased to record high numbers. Exactly, a lot of people are selling their houses in Toronto and moving to my area. Buy your house in Toronto, some shitty little house for $1 million in Toronto, and then buy a big house down here for $500,000. That's what's causing it. Why would you want to be homeless in Toronto? It's beyond me. It's too cold in the winter. So this one, Toronto homelessness, again, why aren't they spend that money on the homeless problem? 85% of those in Toronto experiencing outdoor homelessness are male. There are over 4,400 men, women, and children using emergency shelter on an average night. 68% are male. 93% of people who experience homelessness want a permanent home. Move out of Toronto, where it's cheaper. That's one thing the council could have did, or they could have went through the gangs, the spike in gun shootings. Gang violence in Toronto is a major thing, and they wanted to fund the police. You know, there's a lot of that. Why don't politicians treat Toronto's gang crime as a cause for nationwide reflection and action? You know, and it's these marginalized communities that are causing all this gang violence. So Toronto, there's a huge crime surge in Toronto, particularly violent gang crime. And there's been like a near daily string of tragedies. June 19th, 4 people were shot, including 3 children. 1-year-old boy, 5-year-old girl, and 11-year-old boy were shot, while a 24-year-old man who was also shot is now facing various charges according to a report. And these shootings are surging under the Liberals because it's under the Liberal regime that the defund the police movement has taken over, and the woke movement, thanks to Trudeau and his progressive ideas, which are destroying Canada as we know it. Anyway, Canadians out there, let me know what you guys think of the whole renaming Dundas Street. Is it a good idea or is it a bad idea? Leave comments below, and until next time, this has been the Great White North Report.
I hate the Sky Dome and the CN Tower too. I hate Nathan Phillips Square and the Ontario Zoo. The rent's too high, the air's unclean, the beaches are dirty and the people are mean, and the women are big and the men are dumb, and the children are loopy because they live in a slum. The water is polluted and the mayor's a dork. They dress real bad and they think they're New York and Toronto.